Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of the Arsenal preview show, the show in which we look ahead to the next Arsenal fixture. In this case, it is Arsenal against Manchester United in a top-of-the-table clash that could end United's very small and feeble hopes of a potential win this season in the Premier League. First time, I think, in something like 11 years that they've not won the league. Of course, it's a longer wait for Arsenal, but our hopes are seemingly that much more realistic at the Man United's. That said, it's probably taken about 5 or 6 months for people to give Arsenal any credit, whereas Man United win one game against City and all of a sudden they're going to win the title. So it kind of shows you the dynamic of what we're dealing with in the world of Arsenal at the moment. Let's say good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you happen to be in the world, to our chatbots. Good afternoon, Penny Ween. We've got Afsa, we've got Vlad in there as well. We've got Adang. Steve, Vivian, who says must get a life. Vivian's clearly tuned into all 3 shows we've done today. Your life is great, Vivian. You've made some great choices on this Saturday. Lovely stuff. Aidan, good evening, good morning to you. Canoe, good evening. Sam as well. And Luke as well, who I think is desperately trying to work out how to use the super chat feature without donating and not sending in a question. But Luke, if you are just being very generous, thank you so much. But I wouldn't read out your next comments. Luke says, here we go. Tom, I just wanted to say hi, and I know you're taking up golf, and I wanted to be spending some time talking about it. But the Arsenal Directs have a golf back with Arsenal on it. I'm going to have a look at the Arsenal store to see if indeed it's worth more investment. I've been sent a few messages by people recently because I've only just taken up golf of saying it's 99% skill and 1% equipment. I've had 4 people say that to me so far, and I'm still ignoring it. I can't help myself. I'm looking on eBay at different clubs and different jackets. I can't help it. I'm addicted already, but I will try and stop. Anyway, I'm going off on too much of a tangent. Let's introduce you to my guests for this evening. First of all, back again, it's Dan. How you doing, Dan? You good, Joel?
I'm good, thank you. How you doing? You okay?
Yes, very good. You're so quiet. I even turned your microphone settings, and you're determined to be as quiet as you can. I'm just fine. I'm just going to turn them up even more. So apologies if suddenly he says he whispers and it just blares through your speakers. Let's also bring in the third time. Oh, sorry, Dan. Go on. What'd you say?
ASMR, yeah.
Yeah, ASMR Dan and TGT. That's what this is. For the third time in the space of, I think it must be a week, who's obsessed with the phone-in shows, and now he's jumped onto a preview show as well. It's Kian. How you doing, Kian? You good, Joel?
Hey, not too bad. I got more things to rant about.
Indeed. You're not joining us from work this time.
No, not this time.
You've respected the privacy of your colleagues this time around. Just people walking in that in the background. Great. It was fantastic last time sitting. Can I ask what it is you do? Because it looks a very kind of modern office space of full of well-being posters and things like that.
I do marketing, so it's kind of a chilled office area. There's not much work going on half the
time. Lovely stuff. And finally, making his debut on TGT, it's Lloyd. How you doing, Lloyd?
All right, mate. How are you going yourself?
Very good, very good. Where are you joining us from?
I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and it's 7 a.m. here.
Wow, so you've only got an hour and then it's the 8 a.m. show. No, I'm only joking.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got a little bit longer to wait,
of
course. Yeah. Indeed. And of course, everybody joining us in the chat as well. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be. Manchester United, Dan, are we worried? Are we scared? How concerned are you about the visit of the only team to beat us in the league this season?
Considering how I feel from when they did beat us, I'm not worried at all. I think we made a few mistakes. They capitalised, but if we go by last year's result at the Emirates, was it 3-1? Xhaka boom. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm excited to watch the game. It's going to be nostalgic in some senses, that battle, the rivalry coming back between our 2 clubs. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Lovely stuff. Kian, Man United, as I say, are the only team that have beaten us this season. Do you think, Eric, are you worried that Eric Ten Hag has maybe got Arteta's number?
No, not particularly, because I feel like they're both good coaches tactically, and I feel like we have an edge with Casemiro being got the extra booking now. But I feel like Arteta, one thing he has proven to me out of all the doubts I have, he's a quick learner. If he makes a mistake, he does learn quite quick, and he did make a mistake at Old Trafford. And I'm hoping, and I don't think it was that much on him either. We don't have that many sub options back then, and he made 3 very quickly. And I think that just gave the game away on the counter, and our team just didn't get. It was just a bit disorganized when he made the sub. So hopefully he can improve on that this time.
Yeah, I think the subs were. I loved Clive's description on the Arsenal Vision podcast where he kind of said that they got too excited. They kind of thought we're going to beat Man United at Old Trafford, and it kind of went to it didn't work out. And I kind of think that is what happened. And then we kind of panicked and overcommitted a number of times, and that just enabled them to beat us. Of course, there was some misfortune that the goal that we had ruled out that was then later revealed by an independent committee that shouldn't have been ruled out by VAR. Very frustrating indeed. Hopefully all the decisions are made accurately in tomorrow's game. Lloyds, how are you feeling about the visit of Manchester United? Is it a concern for you, or do you feel as though the momentum's going to ride us through this one?
Well, I get nervous for every Arsenal game this season now with what's going on, but I'm confident. With as Kian mentioned, Casemiro out with that tackle on the 87th minute in the last game, plus Partey being in. We've got our starting 11 with the exception of Jesus over Nketiah, who's been great though in that time. I think we'll be perfectly fine, to be honest. I don't really have any more concerns as opposed to any other games. I think, as the others have said, we've learned from maybe the counterattacks that we've seen from Man United historically in the Old Trafford game. And I think it's going to be absolutely rocking at the Emirates.
It is going to be a wall of noise. I think that's for sure in terms of what they're going to be experiencing. Quick update on Manchester United's team news. Of course, Casemiro is unavailable for this game, but also because of injury, they're going to be without Martial, Dalot, Van der Beek not there, and of course, Jadon Sancho still remains absent as well, though that might not be entirely due to injuries from the sounds of things. Now, one of the things that we didn't necessarily have in a lot of the games this season, Dan, was depth on the bench. However, with the return of Smith Rowe to the bench in recent games and the signing of Leandro Trossard as well, all of a sudden our bench looks quite significantly better than it has for much of the season. Do you expect that to be a big factor in this game, or do you think that the starting lineup is going to be enough to kind of settle ourselves into this one?
I think starting lineup will get the ball rolling. But I think the fact that we've got a bit more depth on the bench now means that later in the game, he can make tactical subs as opposed to flinging everyone on in an attempt to seal the game. Like he can bring on one or the other, then maybe bring on two, slow it down, take control. So like with the option of Trossard, I'm loving that signing right now. With Trossard and Croydon De Bruyne are coming on off the bench, I think we've got a lot going on right now, honestly.
We have. We obviously just did the tactical breakdown on Trossard. If you haven't yet watched that, people give it a listen. It was, I think, Adam explained some things fantastically about Trossard. I think the key thing about that breakdown was I was keen to get someone I felt wasn't hurt by his exit and they could still provide an objective view of Trossard. And I think that Adam definitely did that. I mean, Kian, how are you feeling about that signing? I know we spoke to you on the phone-in show after the Trossard deal was announced, but him being available for this game, do you think he's going to have a part to play in this fixture?
I don't think it'll be a big part, depending on how the game is going. I think he'll definitely be on the bench. Arteta won't just throw him in, and it'll be around after 60, 70. He might get a cameo depending on how the game's going, but I feel like he's going to be perfect for this type of game because Man United will be sitting back. Like, not as in like a Newcastle type sitting back. They will try counter, but they will be in low block. And Trossard, I think, will excel at that. He's good at close quarters. He's good at taking a shot on either of his foot. He offers something different to Martinelli, so I think that will be quite important for us in that game.
Yeah, I agree. It's just having that player that you can bring off either of Martinelli or Saka, and you've got someone that means that you're not going to dip the quality as much. You know, with respect to Nelson and Marquinhos, you know, if you take off Saka or Martinelli for either of those two, you are seeing a drop in what you're seeing come on off the bench. So having Trossard there is a big plus. And I think we can all agree that there's going to be games, I think, between now and the end of the season that Trossard's involvement in is going to mean, hopefully, that we see some games gain additional points where before we may have struggled to get hold of the quality needed to grab the win or draw in certain fixtures between now and the end. And lastly, Lloyd, you know, obviously we've not spoken to you on the channel before. What is your thoughts around the signing of Trossard as a player, and what do you think he will bring to the team this season?
Yeah, the signing of Trossard is absolutely amazing. Some people will be like, "Oh, he's 28 years old," which means he's old. That means they're typically in the prime of their career, which is great. He's had a great. Like, if you look at the numbers, he's had a great year. But I think more so the eye test. You see him. He's got a little cricketer that he does in the final third, breaking down the low blocks. Got a good shot on him. And if you said 4 months ago, before the World Cup, before any of the stuff happened with the previous manager at Brighton, that we were going to get Trossard, Arsenal fans would be in absolute dreamland. So I think it's a great signing, especially after that Liverpool game, that 3-0 Liverpool game away. So very excited. Is he going to play much in this game? I actually don't think so. I think we're going to storm him a bit earlier than that, and he might get on the 85th minute. And the majority of our changes, substitutions are going to be defensive ones, like bringing in Tomiyasu or Tierney just to shore it up when we've already got the win.
Yeah, I hope you're right. Malcolm, though, says in the chat box, people in the chat are forgetting how good Man United have been at setting up to nullify teams like they did against Man City. Dan, is that fair from Malcolm? Do you think that they're going to come with a plan and frustrate us?
It's fair. It is fair, but City haven't been themselves this season. So we're a totally different animal to them at the moment. And not speaking too highly of the team, but at the same time, we've been doing great. Every flank is dangerous at the moment. We're dangerous down the middle, we're dangerous down the side. And cool, we haven't got Jesus hanging off defenders and holding the ball up, but Eddie's getting in behind, which is causing problems. It's just hoping that tomorrow he does one of those spins and he puts one in early on, settle the nerves. The crowd are going to be going mental, but Man United, yeah, they're going to come looking to frustrate, but it's on their terms now. If they make a mistake, we will take them.
Absolutely. Sean's asking about the golf show today. Of course, I know I'm talking about golf recently, and I had someone leave a comment on this morning's video saying we're going to have to change the name of the channel to the Golfer Talk, which it's not going to happen, I'm afraid. So if you're a big fan of golf, I'm going to try and tone it down. I'm a big fad person. I get involved with things very quickly and then leave them, trade them in, if you like, a game when you get bored of one of those video games after like a week. In terms of Kian, there is still obviously a lot of threat from that Man United team. The main person that comes to mind is Marcus Rashford. He's in a lot of form, a really high form this season. Ben White is going to be the one most likely up against him, unless, of course, they play him through the middle. But with Martial out, it's probably going to be Weghorst up top for this game and then Rashford on the left. White's been really good at nullifying threats. Zaha comes to mind when we went to Crystal Palace. Of course, Heung-min Son didn't get much joy at all when we went to Spurs last week. Do you think that Rashford may struggle more so than he has before this season, considering who he's coming up against?
No, the thing with White is he's very good at anticipating. He's good in tackles. He's quite on the front foot. But what does catch him out every now and then is what I've noticed is pace. If there's raw pace and control on the ball, which Rashford does have. But the only thing I don't think Ben White would be isolated against him. I think Saliba will be helping him out, and it will help that they have a striker who moves like a truck right now. I know he's been called the best presser, but he doesn't have any pace or anything. And I think Gabriel will be able to handle him on his own. And I think Saliba will be covering White. And the only thing is that they have no other threats except Rashford. Martial's out, like you mentioned, I think, and no Sancho. I don't think they will start Anthony. I think they will be going with Bruno on right mid, and they will pack out the midfield.
Yeah.
And I think they did that against City, and I think they'll do it against us. But the only thing they'll have less of it, even if they get Fred to man mark or Odegaard, let's say, for example, like they did with De Bruyne, they don't have a Casemiro that can midfield, like boss the midfield, take the tackles, bring the ball out and stuff. They don't have that anymore. They'll have to rely on McTominay. So I think that's where we'll get our edge. We'll have Zinni, we'll have Xhaka, Odegaard, and Partey. And I think if we win that midfield battle, which I expect to, then I think the game will go in our hand, and Rashford will be nullified. He'll have Saliba and White to deal with.
Yeah, it is always the case when you come up against a team that have like a standout forward. If you can stop the service, it is as simple as that. I mean, you look at Poland in the World Cup, had arguably the world's best striker up top. No service to him, and Poland were pretty terrible, and were fortunate even to get through the group stage. And I think that's a great example of what you can do to teams to have kind of those standout players up top. And, you know, you often see it with Crystal Palace. If you stop the service to Zaha, for instance, it really nullifies what they're able to do. And if I think Arsenal can, I think what you're saying there about the midfield is key. If we are able to nullify that battle and just dominate the possession in that area in particular, I think hopefully we should be okay. Joel, thank you so much for the super chat. I've seen many games like this where everyone is sure of a guaranteed win. Be very worried of overconfidence. It is a killer in these types of games. Again, a lot of people bringing us back down to earth, being a bit more objective, which is good. We need to be that. You know, it's very difficult not to get carried away with how good we've been this season. But Lloyd, do you expect the thing about Arsenal at home in particular is we've started games very quickly, and you know we've shot out of the blocks. We've really tried to take games by the scruff of the neck as early on as possible. Get an early goal. We did it obviously even in the away games. You think of the Brighton game, both halves we've scored right at the beginning against Spurs. Yes, they managed to ride a bit of a storm, but as soon as we managed to get that first goal, it just didn't ever look like we were going to drop points in this one. If it does go that way, and if Arsenal do get the first goal, do you think it is a game that will play out very much like that's then going to open the game up more? Or if Man United, say, get the first goal, is that going to create, and it sounds obvious, but a much more of a bigger challenge for Arsenal to try and break them down defensively?
I mean, yeah, if we go down, then we've obviously got to figure out the counter-attack, and that's kind of how we lost the last game at Old Trafford. They countered our counter-attack. But again, what we've seen this season, which has been really great compared to maybe seasons prior, is we get a goal early and we keep the foot on the pedal. Scoring 4 against Brighton, scoring 3 against Liverpool at home, getting that goal in the first minute with Martinelli. I think we'll just run right if that does happen. So again, hopefully we don't concede any today. But I think we're in a good position. Two people I think haven't really been mentioned just on the question that you asked before about, some of the threats. Rashford obviously is one, but he was playing a bit of hero ball against Crystal Palace, which probably didn't lead them to getting a goal. But obviously I think Bruno Fernandes can get into the spaces maybe, where Zinchenko and Partey aren't, if no one's really tracking him. And the young one, Garnacho, he's a pretty good player as well. Coming off the wing, being a super sub, and he did quite a bit of damage to City in their game as well. So I think it's someone also to think about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really come out of nowhere really for United, and I think the wider footballing community this season, seeing him take another step up, and I think I don't think he's signed that new deal yet, or he's on the verge of signing that new deal, but it seems like 7 years was being mentioned as the extension, which is going down the very much Todd Bowley route.
The Todd Bowley special, yeah. Plus 1.5 years as well, of course.
What you're saying about the game being today, of course, being Australia are well ahead of us, and you get the game this very day indeed. We're going to be going to sleep and waking up for an early, not even early kickoff, it's 4:30, I think, in the afternoon on Sunday. So, yes, I'll tell you what, that must be a ridiculously early time for you, though, Lloyd.
3:30 a.m. tomorrow. So try wake up for it. Usually I'll wake up at 6, 7 a.m. start it then, and then I'm so nervous that I end up waking up at 3:30 anyway. So
fair play. I know some people that like to kind of see if they can do an all-nighter and just push through. So I assume they must open some of the bars out there at ridiculously early times in the morning.
Yeah, they haven't been to one. We've got the Melbourne one's called the Crafty Squire in the city. That's probably going to be rocking. But yeah, I can't do that anymore, unfortunately. I used to be able to go out for all my benders, go partying, and then catch up with mates and go to the Arsenal games. But I can't do it anymore, unfortunately.
He's an adversary of us all, indeed. Apparently, especially Trossard at just 28. So there you go. Exactly, yeah. Let's go to the lineups. Now, I'm going to do a bit of a spoiler here. We've all picked the same team, and to be honest, I think all of you watching would have picked this team as well. Ramsdale, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Partey, Xhaka, Ødegaard, Saka, and Nketiah and Martinelli is the side that we have all picked. And because of that, I don't really need to go into the finer details of why we've picked, because we all know the answer. However, what is quite nice is that we've all picked different 5-star performers, which is going to lead to the question here. So, Dan, you've gone with Bukayo Saka. Tell me why he's going to be the star of this game.
So, it depends on who they put at left back, because I know Martinez is back now, isn't he? So he'll probably be partnered with Varane, and then it's either Shaw or is it Malacia? Yeah. I think Shaw will get the nod, which means it's their most improved player versus our star boy. And I can see him getting the better of Shaw. Martinez, I'm predicting this. He's going to get sent off early.
Really?
Reckless, trying to cover Shaw. I reckon it will happen because you think about it, he likes to go in for a lunge. Shaw could probably get beat for the pace. He's going to try and stop him, however, either 2 yellows or a red, one way or another. I think he's going to go down, and then we'll capitalise.
Be interesting to see the crowd reaction to Martinez, because of course he was linked to us very heavily. I'm looking forward to when Chelsea visit later in the season and Mudryk plays, because he is going to get booed to high heaven, when he arrives at the Emirates. So it'd be interesting how Martinez gets a reaction, because he was of course very heavily linked and was going to move, was it not, for Erik ten Hag? So that's the difference between the two for him. Kian, I think you're up next. Let's move to yours. You've gone with Gabriel Magalhaes. Tell us why you've gone with him.
I think because I expect him to control the game at the beginning with their striker. And I feel like Ten Hag is when he's losing, he's going to throw on Elanga or Garnacho in either wings. And I think it's going to be on the Gabriel side. I think Bruno's going to get taken off early if the game's not going in their favour. And I think the only issue with Gabriel is Ben White and Saliba work well together. But Zinchenko goes in mid and Gabriel gets quite isolated. And I think that's when, at the beginning of the season, we were seeing those rash decisions from him and mistakes were happening. But I think he's improved so much recently. And I was kind of one of the people that are doubting him. But he's been better than Saliba recently. And I think he's improved a lot. And I like the fact that Arteta and Edu showed faith in him and gave him a contract quite early before even the improvements came. So I think they always saw a player in him. I didn't. I thought those mistakes were going to carry on because of how frequent they were happening. But he's proved me wrong, so good on him. And I think that's why he's going to be the most important. He's going to help us with that transition when United try to come back in the game. He's going to try to nullify that, and I think that's why it's going to be the most important.
Yeah, and his brand new competition is expected to be in the stands, actually, for this game in Jakub Kivior, who's joined us from Spezia. I'd be surprised if they announce it tomorrow, considering it's a game. They like to usually have days where they can focus on one thing. So it might be that he's announced officially on Monday, but you never know. We might see Kivior, of course, announced before the game. There's a bit of a boost, but he is expected to be in the stands alongside Edu for the game tomorrow. So one to look out for if you're watching the game on TV, where they start panning that camera. Maybe they'll do a reveal in the ground. I can't remember Arsenal ever doing that, revealing a player before a game. Maybe they did it with Martin Odegaard, actually, when he signed permanently. I think they may have revealed him at half-time in a game. And I think he came out onto the pitch before he then went to Man City and we lost 5-0. So hopefully it's not going to be. But I'm pretty sure at the Chelsea game he was revealed on the ground, because obviously he'd already been here once. So it was a bit of a different situation with him. Lloyd, you've gone with, speak of the devil, Martin Odegaard, of course, to be your star man. Is this very much a continuation of his fine form this season?
I would say it's a continuation of his fine form. I was struggling between Odegaard and Xhaka just based on the fact that Casemiro won't be there. So they've got those pockets of space to really pull the strings. So between them, I just asked my fiance, is it Odegaard or Xhaka? And she says Odegaard. So that's what we're going with today.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, he's absolutely an easy pick, I think, for anybody who watches Arsenal recently. He's gone into my fantasy team this week. He's replaced Gabriel Martinelli in the sides. I'm hoping that he can bring home some points for me tomorrow, because I need him to push up the TGT Fantasy League this season, that's for sure.
I gave up.
Absolutely. My star player is Alexander Zinchenko, who has just been gloriously transformative for us on that left-hand side. His build-up, his contribution, his link-up play with everybody on that left flank. He's so influential. And he continues to play like he's got a point to prove after missing a bit at the start of the season through injury. Gabriel and him have linked up fantastically well. I think Gabriel covers the space in behind him really nicely. And I actually think that he was exploited against United when we played them at Old Trafford. Anthony got in behind him a number of times. And I think maybe there'll be a little bit of an added edge to Zinchenko's performance, knowing that was probably a bit of a downer and maybe he was at fault for a bit of that game and he'll want to try and turn it. So let's see what happens. Also, it could be a chance to see him combined with Trossard, should he come off the bench in this game as well on that left-hand side. So that could be something to look out for in the second half as well. Let's go to the final part of the show and predictions. Dan, we're going to start with you. I need a score and scoreline, please.
Same as last year, 3-1.
Lovely stuff. Scorers?
Saka, Xhaka, because someone's at the wheel. And I'm going to go Gabriel. Magalhaes.
Which one?
I think he's
that one.
Yeah. I think
It's always important to say which.
Wait, Gabby 3.
Gabby, indeed. Yeah, from a corner, I'd imagine, probably.
Corner.
Yeah, has to
Header.
be.
Nice
Gabriel
one.
getting a goal.
He's overdue.
Scoreline and scorers, Kian?
I think mine's going to be... I'm going to go 2-1, yeah. 2-1, and I think Saka and Eddie's going to do it. Eddie, I think he's going to get like those scrappy goals he always gets. He'll follow in a shot. I think he'll get one of them. And in the second half, they'll come back with one, and then we'll score another one, I think. I think it's going to be a close game, though. I don't think it's going to be as comfortable as we think. I think possession-wise, it will be, but not scoreline-wise.
Yeah, I remember last season he scored the offside goal that was then brought back because Saka had been fouled and we got a penalty. One of the weirdest kind of scenarios and series of events that led to a penalty I've seen. And I don't know if any of you have seen Southampton's goal being ruled out today by VAR. One of the worst decisions I've ever seen. Like I know we do this every week, talk about bad VAR decisions, but it's like, imagine you're like, when you ever go to a festival and you're like, people like going to the music and stuff, you have a little because there's people all around you, there's a little nudge on the person in front that they don't even notice because, they're involved. That is exactly what happens. There's a little nudge on the player and they rule it out for us for a foul. It is kind of crazy. And lastly, Lloyd's.
Yeah, I'm going to go real greedy with this one. I'm going 4-0 to the Arsenal.
Woo!
Yeah.
Woof.
Yeah. I think they're going to play their counter game, and that's when we're actually going to do our counter to them. So picking off their balls. So I think a couple of them. So I've got Martinelli twice, Odegaard once, and then Kedia once. That's all I'm going for.
Wow, I'm loving that. I thought going for 3-0 myself was optimistic, but he's gone for 4. I can appreciate that. Yeah,
why not?
Go on, Lloyd. Sorry.
I was just going to say, why not? Why not go big?
Yeah. No, I love it. I think if that happens, I'd just love to see them. The 4th goal goes in, and then you just hear the commentator go, "We're just going to pan the camera to Gary Neville to get his reaction in the stadium."
They're not going to win the league. I promise you.
That would be wonderful.
You see, Gary Neville said we're finishing 3rd, not even 2nd.
Yeah.
What is he on? Even if we were to say drop points in this game, I just can't get my head around the. Oh, it's bone idle.
He's still holding on to that old rivalry, isn't he? He can't get the words out of his mouth.
He used to be a big backer of Arsenal in the last decade or so because I think he thought of them not really as a threat. He never saw them coming back to what we are. And so he's always been like, oh, well, if it's not United, I'd like Arsenal to win it. But actually, with the reality of it maybe happening, I think it's actually eating him inside. So, yes, it'll be wonderful. I'm assuming he must be involved in the game for some way. Is it on Sky tomorrow? I think it is. So I'm not sure what it's on tomorrow, but if it is on Sky, surely he will be involved in some fashion. I'm just going on to the Arsenal website. They usually have it. It is on Sky. So
yeah, if it's Sky commentating, he must be.
So surely he'll be involved, either co-commentary or in the punditry box. I kind of hope he's on punditry duty in the studio, so you can see his facial reaction if we indeed do win. That would be
with Ian Wright.
yeah. Ian Wright doesn't do Sky, does he? I think
no, he doesn't.
BT, if anything.
BBC.
But,
I would love them to be next to each
other. Ask before we move on, do you think Martinelli can get the best out of Wan-Bissaka? Because of all the faults Wan-Bissaka does out of positioning, aerially, back post, I just don't see anyone beating Wan-Bissaka 1v1. He is so good. He's unbelievable, and I don't even think Martinelli can beat him. And that's why I didn't predict him to score.
This is why I've put Zinchenko as my star man for this game, because I think if there's one person that can beat Wan-Bissaka, it is Martinelli with the support of both Zinchenko and Xhaka. So I think that 1-on-1, you're absolutely right. But if they can get 2 or 3 and get the triangles working around him, that's how you beat him. Going forwards, I think that suits us actually, that they've got Wan-Bissaka and not Dalot, because Zinchenko, moving away from the defensive spaces, you've not got a fullback like a Reece James or someone like that that's going to push up the field into those areas. You've got Wan-Bissaka who's a little bit more disciplined. So, and then when he does go forward, he's not the best at kind of executing his final third ball. So, yeah, I think Zinchenko is again key in trying to usurp that defensive problem of there. But yeah, in terms of 3-0, Eddie Nketiah to get a goal. Granit Xhaka, I agree with you, Dan. He loves a goal against United, so I'll go with Granit Xhaka. Always from outside the box against United. Always annoying De Gea with how much that ball moves whenever he strikes it. And of course, the Ben White screamer, which is the TGT prediction. Until it happens, we will keep predicting it. Ben White will score a screamer at one stage. It's going to happen, people, and we're going to celebrate like mad when it does. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat box. T-Bone Pest going for a 3-1. Gabriel and Eddie to get 2. Bradley's going for a 3-1. Eddie Brace and Partey. Sam's going for a 2-1 Arsenal with Benny Blanco and Erdegaard. If he says 3-1, 2-1, call me greedy, but I want 3-0, though I doubt that will happen. Well, if you're Lloyd, you think it's going to be 4.
Yeah, it's a bit conservative, isn't it?
Indeed. Kun says here 3-0 or 3-1. Patrick says 5-1 Arsenal. Penny Wayne says 5-3. That'll be a hell of a game. Granddaddy Gooner Paul says 2-1 Arsenal, both goals from Xhaka. Amira says 3-0 Eddie, ESR, and Trossard off the bench, I assume that is. Going to be celebrating the Lunar New Year with family who are United fans as well. So I need a win. Hope you have a fantastic time, Amira. I'll be throwing up some more predictions on the screen while we wrap the show up. Dan, thank you so much for joining me, my friend. Tell people where they can find you.
As always, in the Discord, trying to get fresh faces on the screen. And on Twitter, it's Alpha Wolf. I'm doing little bits here and there, but as I said, still getting used to Twitter. I've never used it, but I'm getting there.
I'm going to be honest with you. You never get used to it. It throws up new, random, horrific things every day. So
it's a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah, it's a hell of a lot to absorb if you've never used the platform before. Kian, I feel like we're making this a very regular thing now. I feel like I've spoken to you more than my wife in the last week. But thank you for joining me, mate. Tell people where they can find you.
No worries. So I'll be in the Discord chat. I finally found a place where people talk about Arsenal more than me, so I'll be there. I'll be there as always.
Lovely stuff. And finally, Lloyd, fantastic debut, my friend. Smashed it. Tell people where they can find you.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Yep, just in the Discord. I'll be starting a YouTube channel ideally in the next week, so that'll be under Mogaloid. So hopefully see you there. I just saw one of the people's chats there, Keenan, put here 17 zip with Trossard scoring 10.
Wow. So
I like that one. I mean, Keenan's got it right.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, Lloyd. I thought you were optimistic, but I'm going to take that back. Keenan is living on a different planet of optimism, but I love it. I absolutely.
That's probably after 3 red cards to United.
That Martin
8 players on the pitch.
Wan-Bissaka, even De Gea, and they don't even bring on a keeper. And we end up winning 17-0. Yeah, unbelievable stuff. Thank you, everybody, for listening to today's show, the third show of the day. It's been hectic. Managed to get a round of golf in, managed to get 3 shows done, managed to watch Silent Witness, which if you don't watch, you should do. It's a great BBC program. Plenty of stuff has gone on today. Not really relaxed. I was actually meant to write an article on my day off, but I didn't get around to doing that. So I'm going to have to do it early tomorrow morning. And of course, tomorrow I will be covering the game for Football London from home. Unfortunately, not the Emirates, but I'll be up to Manchester for the Friday night game against Manchester City in the FA Cup, which is going to be an interesting one indeed. So I think we can all agree that could be very, very interesting indeed. Thank you to my fantastic guests this evening. Make sure that you give them a lot of credit and praise in the chat and the comment section. Dan, Kian and Lloyd, much thanks to you once again. You can find them all in our Discord server. And if you would like to, like them, jump on the show and give your thoughts for our previews, just join up as an expert member or a TGT ambassador, and you can join the Discord server and put yourself forward for these shows. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you again tomorrow morning for the next update of all the latest Arsenal transfer news, which is just an hour away for Lloyd, if time works that way. But no, thank you so much for all that's tuned in. Drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and as always, up the Arsenal.